Okay, so you know me. You know how I get at parties. I need to be the one making everyone laugh. It's like my thing, right? My whole identity in our friend group, the funny one. Ember, the human sparkler. It was at Olivia's place, maybe a dozen of us crammed into her living room, wine flowing. The vibe was perfect, and honestly, I was on a roll. I was telling this long, winding story about a disastrous work trip, and I had them, they were hanging on every word. But then I got to the punchline, the big finish, and it just fizzled. Nothing, just a few polite little chuckles and a sea of expectant faces. God, that silence was so loud. You know that feeling? When the spotlight's on you and you just completely choke. My brain just short-circuited. I needed a save, a big one. And then, like a horrible little gift from the universe, it just popped into my head. Reese, his story, so I pivoted. I didn't even think, I just did it. But hey, speaking of being chased by things you can't escape, I said, my voice way too loud. I pointed right at Reese, who was smiling at me from across the room. You guys will not believe what this tough guy right here is deathly afraid of. I launched right into it. The whole thing, the goose, the park when he was 7. Him, a tiny kid, apparently running in circles, screaming, while this giant bird honked and chased him. I acted it out. The waddle, the flapping wings, the whole stupid, ridiculous scene. And the room, it exploded. I mean, it was a roar. People were wiping tears from their eyes, slapping their knees. It was the biggest laugh of the whole night. I did it. I saved it. I turned to Reese, beaming, ready to give him a playful nudge like, see, it's funny. But his face, oh God, it was just gone, all the color, all the light. He was just white, staring at me. Not with anger, not yet. Just this hollow, blank look, like he didn't even know who I was. And in that second, under all the roaring laughter, the world went completely silent. And the thing is, the absolute worst part, is that I knew. I knew exactly what that story meant to him. It wasn't just some funny anecdote he trot out for laughs. I mean, God, he gave it to me like it was a goddamn secret jewel. It was maybe 6 months ago. We were stuck inside during one of those insane thunderstorms, the kind where the rain is just hammering on the windows and you feel like you're the only 2 people in the world. We'd killed a bottle of wine, we were lying on the floor with just one lamp on, and we were in that deep talk zone, sharing things you don't normally say out loud. He was telling me about how he always felt like he had to be the strong one, the one who had it all together, even as a kid. And then he got this look on his face, this really vulnerable, almost embarrassed look. He rolled over to face me and said, I'm going to tell you something I have literally never told another living soul. And you have to promise you won't laugh. Of course, I promised. I was tracing the lines on his hand. I would have promised him anything in that moment, and he told me. He told me about being 7 at a park near his old house. His parents were fighting a lot back then, and his mom had taken him out to get away from it. But she was so distracted, so caught up in her own misery, that she just sort of forgot him on the bench. And he felt so completely alone. Then this huge, aggressive goose started coming toward him, hissing and flapping its wings. And to a little kid, that's a monster. He said it wasn't just about the bird. It was the feeling that this terrifying thing was happening, and nobody, not the one person who was supposed to protect him, was even looking. He ran, and he tripped, and he scraped his knee up really bad, and he just lay there crying until his mom finally noticed. He was so quiet after he told me. He just whispered, it sounds so stupid now, but I've never felt so helpless in my whole life. And I just held him. I told him it wasn't stupid at all. It was our secret. A testament to how close we were. This was the same guy, you get me? The same Reese who, just last month, almost got into a fight with his own cousin at a barbecue because the guy made a cheap joke about my job. Reese just went dead cold and said, don't talk about her like that, ever. He was a fortress for me. He believed us was a sacred private thing, a team. And I took the foundation of that trust, that tiny, scared 7-year-old boy, and I served him up on a platter for a handful of cheap laughs. Back at the party, I was so high on the laughter, so ridiculously relieved that I'd stuck the landing, that his reaction barely registered at first. That wave of laughter, it's like a drug. It washes over you, and for a second you're brilliant and charming and everything is okay. I was floating on it. I was the one who had brought that joy into the room. Me. I leaned over, nudging him with my elbow, feeling generous, like I was trying to pull him into the warm glow of the joke with me. Hey, I whispered, smiling like a complete idiot. Don't be such a baby about it. It's funny, right? They don't mean anything by it. I honestly believed I was helping him. Like I was teaching him a valuable life skill, how to laugh at yourself. God, the arrogance of that. I actually thought he should be thanking me for helping him get over his silly fear. But he didn't move. He didn't even look at me. He just kept staring into the middle distance, his jaw so tight I could see the muscle jumping. The laughter started to die down then, not naturally, but like it was being smothered. It curdled. People started noticing the weird, horrible tension radiating off of him, looking from his blank, pale face to my still grinning one. The air got thick and awkward. Then, without a single word, he just stood up. He didn't storm out, that would have been easier to deal with. It was worse. It was quiet, deliberate. He walked through the little cluster of our friends, his movements stiff and controlled. He grabbed his jacket from the hook by the door, not even breaking his stride. And he left. The click of the door latch shutting behind him was louder than a gunshot. The silence he left in his wake was a vacuum. Every single person in that room was looking right at me. I felt my face get hot, my skin prickle, but I swear to you it wasn't with guilt. Not yet. It was with pure, hot, defensive anger. How dare he do that to me? He had just publicly humiliated me by refusing to take a joke. He had sucked all the air out of the room and made me look like the bad guy. I had to do something, say something to fill the void. I forced a laugh, a brittle, ugly sound, and shrugged at Olivia. Well, you see what I have to deal with, I said, my voice straining to sound light and playful. Mr. Sensitive over here. A few people gave me these weak, uncomfortable smiles. The kind of smile you give someone when you feel sorry for them. The party was basically over. The vibe was dead, murdered by a story about a goose. And in my head, it was all his fault. All the way home, I was just fuming. I was holding a trial in my head, and I was the star prosecutor. The charge being a dramatic, oversensitive party pooper. The defendant? Reese. It was just a joke. A stupid joke about a bird from 20 years ago. Why does he always have to make everything into such a big, emotional deal? He embarrassed me in front of everyone. I was building my case, brick by brick, getting ready for the massive argument I was sure we were about to have. I had no idea there wasn't going to be one. I gave him the night to cool off. In my mind, that was generous. I rehearsed my lines, a mix of annoyed righteousness and magnanimous forgiveness. I'd let him vent, then I'd explain, calmly, rationally, why he was overreacting. We'd make up. It would be fine. The next afternoon, I showed up at his apartment, armed with coffees and a box of his favorite donuts, my peace offering. I was ready to play the part of the slightly exasperated but ultimately loving girlfriend. He opened the door and his face was just neutral. That was the most terrifying thing. No anger, no sadness, just a calm, quiet blankness. He looked tired. He took the coffee but left the donuts on the counter, unopened. Hey, I started, going for cheerful. You survived the party, I see. Look, about last night. Ember, he cut me off. His voice was flat, not cold, just empty. Can you just sit down for a second? My whole speech just evaporated. This wasn't the opening scene I had prepared for. I sat on the edge of his sofa, the one we'd spent hours on, watching movies and talking. It suddenly felt like a stranger's furniture. He didn't sit, he stood by the window, looking out. I was up all night, he said, his voice still perfectly level. Just thinking about us. About what happened. Reese, it was a stupid joke. My timing was off, I get it, I'm sorry. I was just trying to get a laugh. He finally turned to look at me, and there was something in his eyes I'd never seen before. It wasn't anger, it was clarity, a terrible, final clarity. I know, he said. That's the whole problem. You were trying to get a laugh. And you looked at me, at something I gave you in total confidence, something that was actually painful for me, and you saw material. You saw a punchline. He started pacing slowly. I've spent our entire relationship making sure you felt safe. That us was a place where you didn't have to perform, where your secrets were safe. I thought we had that, I really did. But last night, you showed me that for you, there is no private space. There's just the stage and the audience. And anything, or anyone, is fair game if it gets you a round of applause. I opened my mouth to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but he held up a hand. It's not about the goose, Ember. Can you understand that? It was never about the damn bird. It's about the fact that you took the most vulnerable part of me, the part I only showed to you, and you sold it for a moment of attention. And you didn't even realize what you were doing. You stood there, smiling, while I felt like I was standing naked in a room full of people. He stopped in front of me. "I can't live like that," he said, his voice finally cracking, just a little. "I can't be in a relationship where I have to constantly worry if my life is going to be used as a bit in your stand-up routine." And then he said it. No drama, no shouting, just a quiet, procedural statement. "I think we need to break up. This is over." He then walked over to the bookshelf. "We should probably figure out who's getting which books, and I have your spare keys here." It was like he was reading from a checklist. The how to end a relationship checklist. It was brutal. It was a formal, systematic amputation. And I just sat there, bleeding out, the stupid box of donuts sitting on the counter like a monument to my own cluelessness. For the next few days, I was just pissed. I mean, seriously, monumentally angry. The sadness was there underneath, but the anger was so much louder, so much easier to listen to. I told myself a story, and I told it over and over until I almost believed it. The story was that Reese was a manipulative, overly dramatic asshole who had used my tiny mistake as an excuse to blow up our lives. He was punishing me, trying to control me. He was the bad guy. I called my sister, I called my work friends, I vented to anyone who would listen. "Can you believe that?" I'd say, my voice dripping with indignation. "He broke up with me over a goose. A bird. He's insane, right?" Some of them murmured agreements, probably just to get me off the phone. But the story felt good. It protected me from the other feeling, the one that was starting to creep in at 3 a.m., the sickening, hollow feeling of regret. Then, about a week after it happened, Olivia called. She was the host of the party, our mutual friend. Her voice was really weird on the phone, all hesitant and careful. "Hey, Em. How are you doing?" "Oh, you know," I said, launching right back into my script. "Just trying to deal with the fact that my ex is a complete psychopath who thinks a barnyard animal is more important than our relationship." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Yeah, about that," she finally said. "Listen, this is super awkward, but I feel like you need to hear it. After Reese left the other night, it got really weird here." "What do you mean weird?" I asked, annoyed. "I mean," she took a deep breath. The laughing stopped, like instantly, and everyone just kind of looked at each other. It was uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. I felt a little knot tighten in my stomach. So, he made it awkward by storming out. "No, Em, that's not what it was," she said, and her voice was so gentle, it was almost worse than if she'd yelled. Later, after a few people had left, I was talking to David by the kitchen. And he said, "Man, I can't believe she did that to him. Reese looked like he'd been physically assaulted. He said it looked like you had stripped him naked in front of everyone and pointed out all his flaws." The phone felt slick in my hand. David loved me. He always laughed the loudest at my jokes. Olivia kept going, her voice low. "He wasn't the only one. People were shocked. They thought it was cruel, Ember. They were laughing because it was shocking, not because it was funny. Do you get the difference?" And just like that, the entire narrative I had so carefully constructed just shattered. It was like a house of cards in a hurricane. Cruel. The word echoed in my head. They didn't see me as the hilarious, life-of-the-party Ember. They saw me as the person who would hurt the man who loved her for a cheap laugh. They saw what Reese saw. I hung up the phone. The anger was gone, all of it. And in its place was this vast, cold, empty ocean of shame. I finally saw it. I saw his face again, that blank, white shock. And for the first time, I didn't see a man who was overreacting. I saw a man I had broken. Months passed. Autumn turned into that miserable, gray slush of early winter. I tried to move on. I went on a couple of dates. I threw myself into work. I even tried hosting a game night. But it was all hollow. The jokes felt forced, the laughter sounded fake. My sparkler had gone out. I was just the stick. Then came the invitation. A group text from Olivia for her annual holiday party. Of course Reese would be there. For a second, I thought about making an excuse, claiming I had the flu or a sudden out-of-town trip. But then this desperate, stupid little flicker of hope ignited in my chest. Maybe if he saw me, if I could just talk to him for 2 minutes, if I could just deliver the apology that I had been rehearsing in my head for months, maybe I could fix it. I spent 2 hours getting ready, which is insane. I put on the dress he always said he loved, the blue one. I did my makeup perfectly. I looked good. I felt like a fraud. Walking into that party was like walking into a ghost story. It was the same apartment, mostly the same people, the same cheerful holiday music, but everything was different. The air crackled with a tension that was all about me, and then I saw him. He was by the fireplace, talking to a small group, holding a beer. He was laughing at something someone said, a real, genuine laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. He looked happy, he looked lighter than I had seen him in years. My heart did this painful, lurching thing in my chest. He saw me over someone's shoulder. The laugh didn't vanish, but it settled. He gave me a small, polite nod. A nod you'd give to a coworker you barely know or the person who held the door for you at the post office. There was no anger in it, no pain. There was just nothing. It was 1,000 times worse than hatred. I spent the next hour hovering at the edges of conversations, a drink clutched in my hand like a shield. I watched him. I watched him move through the room with an easy grace, talking to everyone, being the warm, wonderful Reese everyone loved. Everyone except me. He never came within 10 feet of me. It was like I was a piece of furniture he was casually avoiding. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I saw a moment when he was alone, grabbing another beer from the cooler. This was it. My one chance. I walked over, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Reese," I said. My voice sounded thin. He turned, and that polite, neutral mask was back on. "Ember, hey. Are you having a good time? Number, listen, I need to say I'm sorry. I know it's way too late, but I am so sorry for everything. What I did was unforgivable and cruel and—" "It's okay," he said, cutting me off gently. He wasn't being dismissive. It was a simple statement of fact. "I know. I appreciate you saying it. So, can we talk sometime?" I asked, the desperate hope making my voice shake. He looked at me, and for the first time all night, I saw a flicker of the old Reese, a deep, profound sadness in his eyes. "I forgive you, Ember," he said, and his voice was kind. It was the kindness that broke me. "I do, but I can't let you back in. I can't ever be the punchline again." He gave my arm a light, platonic squeeze and walked away, back into the heart of the party, back to the laughter. I just stood there, by the beer cooler, in my pretty blue dress. The party swirled around me, a universe of warmth and connection that I was no longer a part of. I had won the biggest laugh of my life that night, months ago, and in exchange, I'd lost him. I'd lost everything. I was the funniest person in a room of one.